Okay, a quartile is a way to break up your data just like a percentile. Instead of breaking it up into 100%, we're breaking it into quarters or 25%. So the quartile 2 is the median. It has 50% of the data below it, and then you can break that again in half, which gives you quartile 1. So it gives you 25% in each value. And then the top two quartiles, again, between quartile 2 and quartile 4, the half point is quartile 3. So 25% of the data is in between each of those also. You can find what's called an IQR, or an interquartile range, taking the 75% or the third quartile minus the first quartile. And we can figure out the range between those two quartiles. It should approximate the middle point here. Okay, so you can think of these as quartiles, you can think of these as percentiles. It doesn't matter. The first quartile is the 25 percentile. Like I said a second ago, quartile 3 is the 75 percentile. Quartile 2 is the 50% quartile, or it is the median. So if we're looking for, we have 9 numbers here, sodium levels. It wants us to find the 5-number summary range. That means quartile 1, quartile 2, quartile 3, quartile 4, and the IQR. Those are your 5-number summaries. I'm going to do that in Excel. So I have a sheet here with the sodium levels. There we go. Now the computer will do this for you. So I'm going to show you. And there's a couple of different formulas built in to do this for you. The minimum is just the very first plot here is our minimum value. So we find that so that we can take this instead of a box plot with this information. So I typed all my data points in here, and Excel is actually programmed for the minimum. So we're going to put equals and just start typing in minimum. And it says, if you read it, it's going to return the smallest value in our data. So we just highlight our cells here. Make sure to close your parentheses and hit enter. So the minimum number is 136. To find quartile 1, you just start typing in quartile. Oops. I use the inclusive instead of the exclusive. It's not going to make much of a difference, but it's okay. Highlight the data points you're looking for, and then you put a comma instead of closing the parentheses, and you have to tell it what quartile you want. And it pops up a little menu for you so you know. You could have used for the minimum value quartile 0, or you can use quartile 1, the first quartile. That's what we're looking for. So you put a 1, close your parentheses, and hit enter. Now, so if we were to do this, there's so many ways you can do this. So I just want to make sure you know. If I want to do this with a quartile instead of with a minimum, I can. I'm messing with life here. Hang on. And I should get the same number if I put quartile 0 here. I do. Same thing for this one. If I would do, instead, if I type in percentile, inclusive percentile, I can do the same group of numbers. I think I need to put the 0.25 in there. Let's see if that works. Yes, it gives you the same number. So you can use it by its quartile number, by its percentile number. Same thing here. I can do equals quartile, equals minimum, equals percentile. Not minimum, I'm sorry, median. And we're just going to highlight this. Now you don't have to keep highlighting over and over again. You could copy and paste this in here. Quartile 2, quartile 3. But I'm just going to go ahead and do it as a short list. But if it's a longer list, feel free to copy this information from the previous and do that. Okay, and then the max should be quartile 4 or max. So you should have one for max. which does that, or you can do quartile included again, and then highlight them, comma 4. Okay, there is our 5-number range. Minimum, the maximum, and the 3 quartiles. Now with that information, you can set up a box plot and you can see the spread of the data. But before we do that, we need to talk about outliers. An outlier is extremely high or extremely low data value that you find. So if you look at this group of data right here, we can probably see that 62 is an outlier. It's way outside the other data points. But first, what we're going to do is, here we go. What you do is you find quartile 1 and quartile 3, just like we did in our last example. You find their average, so that's the IQR. Sorry, quartile 1, quartile 2, then you find their IQR, their average of it, which is 19. That's the change between quartile 3 and quartile 2. And then you add 1.5. You multiply 1.5 times it, and then you add and subtract it in step 3. Oops, right here. So anything 1.5 above the interquartile range and 1.5 below the interquartile range is going to be an outlier. And like I said before, you can see that that's happening. The 62 is so far away from the average of these. Okay, now we use all this information in a box plot or a box and whisper plot. Let me get out of the way. So once you find your 5-number summary, you take all that information and spread it out on your x-axis. And you can use a horizontal line to do that. Plot the minimum point, plot the maximum point. Then you would draw lines at the median, quartile 1, and quartile 3. So quartile 1, 2, and 3. If you look at this picture right here, this one is beautiful. This one has some data values in it so you can see, but this has the name for the data values at that point. So the box in here is made up of the IQR, the Q1 minus Q3, with the median in the middle. And then the outliers are shown because they're outside the minimum and maximum point, or are the minimum and maximum point in our last example. So this is called the box, and these are the whiskers. We're going to try one, I think. Yeah, here we have an example. Consider the data set below and construct a box plot. Now, you can do it by hand. Again, you can always do it by hand. There's no problem with that. But I'm going to use Excel to show you how to create a box plot. Now, if you look at our examples before, both of these box plots are horizontal. Excel does theirs vertical, but that's okay as long as you understand what you're reading. What am I doing? Okay, so here we have the information, and I'm just going to highlight it. And we could do like we did before. We could